Well, I keep wanting to make it more complicated. Hey, I'm Pastor Matt here with your Missionary Pathway Mission Insight. And this insight actually comes from a conversation I had with one of our Missionary Pathway facilitators who, as we were talking about the Missionary Pathway and facilitating cohorts and just the process in general, he looked at me and he said, I keep waiting for this to get more complicated, but it's just not. It's a really simple process. And I was like, yes, and that's the point. You see, at its heart, disciple making can be something that is really simple. So simple that the average everyday Christian can carry it out in the places they live, work, learn, and play. And that's the powerful thing about disciple making. It's not something that's reserved for a few special people in the church. It's something that could be carried out by everybody in the church. That's why Jesus looked at us all and said, as you are going, make disciples. See, one of the problems with disciple making, though, in the 21st century is we keep trying to make it more complicated. And I think there's places and spaces to add complexity and more robust systems. And I think that can be a help in some places and spaces, as long as we do not lose the simple heart of disciple making, as long as we still have a simple disciple making pathway that we can pull out of the back pocket and share with those everyday Christians who are going into places and spaces we would never go. And so as we think about that, I want to share a few insights on disciple making to help keep it simple. Number one, the best disciple making processes are simple. I think about Ralph Moore. Ralph Moore is the only 20th century church leader that's actually been traced back to leading an actual church planting movement. And when you talk to Ralph Moore, he is one of the most humble people you could possibly meet. And the amazing thing about Ralph is his strategy was really simple. He said, we just got people in small groups and we made disciples in the church. And he would do that by asking 3 simple questions. Are you ready for these questions? They're gonna blow your mind. Hey, what was the Holy Spirit telling you in today's message? What are you gonna do about it? How can I help? 3 simple questions. And yet those 3 simple questions led to churches being planted, led to disciples being made, led to lives being changed. Because the reality is this, disciple making doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, some of the best disciple making processes are simple. Number 2, the best disciple making processes are relational. I think the other thing we need to keep in mind is that discipleship was always meant to be life on life. And so when we have a highly relational process, it allows people to connect with people, for people to share the story of the gospel in their lives and to see that story of the gospel make an impact in somebody else's life. And so when you're developing a disciple making process, don't just keep it simple, but allow it to be highly relational. And the third point is this: as you start seeing your disciple making process move forward, fight for simplicity. It's always going to be easy to make it more complicated than it needs to be, or want to add layers that just don't simply need to be there. And so as you're doing that, you need to constantly fight for simplicity in your disciple making process. And then finally, remember, simple doesn't mean easy. I think a lot of times we hear simple and we're like, well, it should be more complicated. But think about it. Hearing Jesus' command to love your neighbor, well, that's a simple thing, till you start trying to love your neighbor. And then it becomes more complex, doesn't it? Because we live in a fallen and broken world. And so carrying out some of these simple commands of Jesus can be a difficult thing. So don't confuse simple disciple-making processes with easy. The life of a disciple is not always easy, but we're empowered by the Spirit to do it. And so my encouragement to you is, remember, the best disciple-making practices are simple. They're highly relational. So fight for that simplicity and don't confuse simplicity with easy. If this Missionary Pathway insight was helpful for you, this mission insight, please click like and subscribe and share this insight or the Kairos Network YouTube channel out with somebody else. If you're on Instagram and you want to find out more about a simple disciple-making process, simply comment pathway in the comments of your Instagram and we will send you a link to the simple disciple-making process, the Missionary Pathway. And of course, you can always go to missionarypathway.org to find out more. So till next time, it's a joy hanging out with you right here on Mission Insights.